All right, we are live. This is the Do It Again podcast. I am your host, Coach Jake. Hope you guys are doing good today, man. I got like all kinds of crazy 10x fucking gear on today. I always do. But why? Because I'm promoting, because I bought into that brand, and it's a brand I believe in, and you should be doing the same thing. Promote all your stuff, right? So what's up, Bully Pup? Good to see you, homie. So today, I've been talking a lot about business development, because that's the name of this. That's the name of the game here that I'm talking about. I have a number of businesses, so we do talk about my businesses every once in a while. But I'm happy to talk with you about your business. You just got to go into the comment section, right? Type any of your questions or comments. You just don't like the fucking way I look, that's cool too. I mean, I'm used to it, man. I've heard it all. So I've got a thick skin. Hope you guys had a fantastic weekend. I had a wonderful weekend. Last night, went and supported some friends at a show they did. They did a fantastic job. It was called Popstalgia. It was held at this Wild Goose Saloon out in Colorado. Really amazing production. I mean, I have no idea. It must have been 20 or more different entertainers involved, from musicians to hoop dancers and people hanging off of trapezes and doing fancy pole fitness things. It was just amazing. My wife and I were there with our company, Gate Master. We were a sponsor of the event, and we also ran the door. So I was running the door. It was a lot of fun. I hope if you were there, that I got a chance to hang out and talk to you. It was pretty loud though, so we probably didn't talk too much. Anyway, so number one, right? Number one podcast. In fact, that's pretty soon. The way you see all this 10X that I'm wearing, right? And the 10X flag and all that stuff. I am going to be rocking number one, because that's my brand. Now it's going to be under the Thales coaching imprint, right? I talked about this on Thursday, that I was going to abandon Thales. I think I'm going to keep Thales, because Thales was number one, right? Thales was the first of the 7 sages of Greece. Thales was the first person to offer, I think it was a mathematical proof. He was the first to do science. He was the first options and derivatives trader. He ended up becoming quite wealthy just by using the power of his mind. So I think I'm going to keep the company name Thales. Think about it. So I'm modeling Cardone a bit. His company's called Cardone Enterprises. That's actually who, if you buy something, shows up on the credit statement. That's what Thales coaching is going to be like. But 10X is kind of the brand that really stuck with people. And I'm finding a lot of resonance on this number one. So number one is going to be really what I start pushing. So if you guys are interested, let me know. I'm going to be getting some gear made. It's going to look super simple, be like this, but it'll be like the logo. Let me see if I can put that logo up for those of you guys. Let's see. Show. Oh, it's not showing. Wait, hold on. That logo. I don't know. The people on YouTube and stuff could see it, because I could tweak it, but I can't do it on Instagram. So on Friday, my show got interrupted because the winds where I live get pretty wild, right? Because it's Colorado. And so there's like that convection that happens, because it can get really warm and it can get really cold, and that churns the air pretty hard. So it's like the current in the ocean, right? You got warm water on top, cool on the bottom, and it makes a current. Well, that's what happens with the air too. It got so windy here, it was insane. Blew my fence down right in the middle of my broadcast. So I had to go out and fix my fence, because I got dogs, and I didn't need to worry about my dogs running away. So I appreciate you guys having patience with me. But ironically, that's what we were talking about. We were talking about patience, right? So, hey, what's up, Big Nick? Happy to see you, brother. Welcome to the show. Yeah, the show is today. I want to talk about they say patience is a virtue. So I'd like to talk about that virtue and maybe tweak it just a little bit with regards to business, because I think kind of a companion concept, a sister concept, a brother concept to patience is this idea of persistence. I think patience is the ability to just wait. And sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to wait. Okay? It sucks, especially if you're a type A person like me. You just figure out every other way that you can collapse time and not wait. But sometimes you do, right? I think when you add hard work to patience, it becomes persistence, right? So sometimes a project, you can't collapse time. Sometimes it takes decades. Sometimes it might take centuries, right? Sometimes a project might be longer than your life. Like they say, the pyramids. Fair? So some of the construction of these great pyramids, now I'm not talking ancient aliens. I'm not saying that, I'm not going with that version of history. I don't know. I'm going on the basic history where, people don't assume aliens just zap these, and that slave labor, it took centuries of slave labor to build some of these pyramids. That is patience and that is persistence. But you know what? That patience and that persistence over those multiple lifetimes, what do they say? Man fears time, but time fears the pyramids. They've been around. We don't know how long the pyramids have been around, honestly. Guys like, what's that guy? Graham Hancock have been really doing some interesting work, real evidence-based work that's turning a lot of the old archaeological numbers on their head. And we're seeing that civilizations maybe a lot older than we actually thought. And so these pyramids may go back more than just a couple thousand years. They may go back 10,000 years. So anyway, my point is this. Man fears time, but time fears the pyramids. But how were the pyramids created? The pyramids were created through patience and persistence. An enormous amount of work and single-minded focus over multiple lifespans. You understand? That's incredible. Now, thank you to technological improvements, open source nature of science where people share ideas, collaborate, and that kind of stuff. Now we could throw up a pyramid or throw up a skyscraper in a fraction of the time, right? With better materials or whatever. Now, whether these skyscrapers last for tens of thousands of years or not, none of us will actually be here to find out. So your guess is as good as mine. But some of the materials are pretty strong. Steel. Some of these plastics don't degrade for hundreds of thousands of years or whatever. So they very well may. But it's a testament to this virtue of patience and persistence. It's a really great pithy saying, and I think, I can't remember which president, I think it's Calvin Coolidge. It's attributed to him. And the saying goes like this: persistence prevails where all else fails. So let's say you're working on something and you just can't find a dirty way to get it done. Well, in the same way that wind or water erodes mountains, it's that application of pressure and friction over enormous amounts of time. Sometimes it's weird, right? So patience is really about time. Okay. And I don't want to get too deep into physics, but time is a really interesting concept. What is it they say? They say time and land. It's the only two things they aren't making more of, right? That's why people get wealthy with real estate. No brainer. But it's also why people get wealthy with time, i.e. interest. Interest is a rent payment on money paid back over time, right? And what did Einstein, the guy who revolutionized our way of thinking, he said the most powerful thing in the universe is compound interest. So all of this stuff is really connected, okay? But like I've been really putting together this concept of the 5 pillars of greatness. There might be more pillars. I added one just in the last 2 weeks. It's more of a metaphor than anything, that a working concept that I'm trying to develop. But one of the pillars, the second pillar, and Cardone calls it obsession, right? Or even on the inside of the hat it says, "Be obsessed or be average." Obsession, but I think you can make it a little broader than obsession, and I do like obsession because it adds an emotional component, like a sensory, like a when you say obsessed, you know what that means, like in your gut. But I do want to abstract a little bit away from that and what I also think is in the same genre, but maybe without so much emotional panache, is this idea of single-minded focus. Okay, because single-minded focus and obsession, like if you look them up in the dictionary, very, very similar. In fact, let's do that. I'm going to do that right now. Let's look up obsession definition. And make sure that I'm not screwing people on StreamYard. I hope you guys are still seeing me because I'm talking going back and forth. So compulsion is persistent preoccupation with an idea. Okay, but they put a bunch of negative shit on it, right? Because of course they do. I do like this idea of maybe then not being controversial and calling it single-minded focus. Okay, I think there are such things as healthy obsessions. I have many of them. I think there are such things as unhealthy obsessions, and I've overcome many of them. Okay, that's part of the process of being human, is finding the ones that serve you and the ones that are demons or whatever, right? So, my point is this: if you look at a master meditator, somebody who is like, even in magic, right? Like occult studies of like Dr. Strange and stuff, but in real life, a lot of them talk about this idea of a single pointed focus and the power of that. Okay, I do think that there is immense power in that ability. Okay, and that needs to be sustained over time. And there's different ways to do that, right? You can do it through meditation. Now, some people put, for example, in the what I'm familiar with, Zen, Zazen, which is the sitting practice, the meditative practice in Zen, in the Rinzai tradition, which is like the samurai tradition, there's Soto and Rinzai, and then, just like Christianity, there's all these breakoffs. But in the Rinzai tradition, you sit during Zazen, the meditative practice, you sit and you focus on your breath with your eyes open in a posture, your hands folded, your legs folded. And you meditate on your breath. And what's interesting about that, I stumbled on it when I was in college. I discussed it on this podcast several times, that, I was going through some really struggling in my freshman and sophomore year of college, like with my identity, what I was going to do. I felt completely unprepared for the world. I had gone through 12 years of high school, didn't fucking teach me how to balance a checkbook or anything about making money. Going through college, same deal, just a giant jerk off of not preparing me for the real world. And I was having a lot of anxiety, and I was self-medicating, smoking too much pot, dropping too much acid, and just not making my situation any better, right? And one of the pathways I talked about, I stumbled on a Tony Robbins personal development program, Unlimited Power. It was like, I can't remember, it was like 6 cassette tapes. This is how long ago it was. It was like 93. But another thing that I stumbled on was meditation. I went to like the college, University of Colorado had free counseling with, some shrink. And I went there and it was a jerk off. I was like, dude, talking about my problems is not going to solve my problems. I need solutions, not sitting here fucking dwelling on shit. And that's what it really amounted to me. And fortunately, I was there before they started just fucking prescribing shit and doing these chemical lobotomies with these antidepressants and shit. Fortunately. So I was like, dude, this shit don't fucking work. So I bailed. And I was actually very fortunate. Hey, what's up, people? Happy to see you. What's up, Al? Whoa, I haven't seen you in a minute, bro. For a long time, I had been a fan of the beat poets, guys like Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, William Burroughs, Neil Cassidy, all these people that were in this writing scene. That was part of the reason why I was smoking so much pot and dropping acid too. There was a problem. But one of the things that they kept talking about, in particular Kerouac, was Buddhism. And so I was like, I need to understand this. And I'm a guy that, like, I get my hands dirty. If I'm gonna figure something out, I'm gonna get in there. And if it means breaking bones, or in the case of, like, with me and my wrestling journey, if I break my neck and have a collapsed carotid artery and whatever, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna get in there and get my hands dirty. So I did that. And what was great was I was taking a sociology class, and my professor, a guy named Len John Pinto, rest in peace, he's passed recently, very influential character in my life, professor of sociology at the University of Colorado Boulder. And he was deeply into Buddhism. And I happened to, I think in the course of sociology class, we were talking and I mentioned something about Buddhism. So anyway, he was very deeply connected, and he wanted to start a program at the University of Colorado called the CU, which is the acronym for University of Colorado, CU Zen Society. And so to do so, to make it officially a part of the university, now he was an administrator, he knew all the loopholes and stuff, which was fantastic. He needed a faculty member, which was him. He needed an actual Buddhist monk who he knew, a gentleman who had become a monk, a Zen Buddhist monk named Koyo. His name is Koyo, Koyo. He's around somewhere. He doesn't get on social media, and I've tried to contact him. He's difficult. And he needed a student to start a charter. That was like the deal. You needed a faculty member, a student, and like an expert, or like in this religious thing, like somebody who was a monk or whatever. And so we did it. We started the University of Colorado Zen Society, and I started practicing with Koyo, leading the Zazen, how to focus my mind, how to practice single-minded focus. In my opinion, this was one of the most important things that happened to me in my life. And I'm a big proponent of personal development, of self-help, of getting shit done, figuring it out yourself, pulling yourself up by your bootstrap. I love that shit. I've done it. I love it. It's totally possible. It's totally doable. It's not easy, but I love it. In fact, that's what this podcast is about, right? The reason why I call it No1 is because it's double meaning. No one means zero, no one, nothing, nobody, you're a no one, to number one, to being the best, to being the first, to being the person in the space. And that's what this is dedicated to, right? Now, interestingly enough, I was as about close to zero, rock bottom, as I could be at that time in my life. It was awful. I had just come out of cancer treatment. My body was decimated. I was just building from scratch. I was traumatized mentally. I was like awful socially. I had no friends. I had a handful of friends, and lucky to have them at that time. I was just in a mess. I was a total disaster. And anyway, so I practiced this. And for 2 years, I think it was 2 or 3 times a week, I would sit there and I would sit on this fucking, what do they call them, zafutan or whatever, I can't remember the name of the pillow that you sit on. My legs, my eyes just in a gaze and listening to my breath. And it's a fascinating practice if you really do it. Sit down with an egg timer. You can do this on your own. Sit down, and we would do it for a half hour. And the benefit of having Koyo there is he could tell if you were not focusing, and he'd whack you with a stick. Okay, that's just the Japanese way. And you go, oh, yeah, shit, I'm thinking about food or girls or a homework assignment or some other thing besides focusing on my breath. You're developing a muscle. You're developing the ability to focus on one thing at the exclusion of everything else. That is such a crucial skill that is missing in our world today. Our world is just a world of distraction. That fucking cell phone, that screen, the timer, kids, dogs, significant others, jobs, bosses, customers, boom, 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 constantly being pulled a million different directions. And so this is a practice of focus, of developing a laser-like focus and not getting distracted. This was one of the greatest skills I ever developed, honestly, because this is what allows for persistence, especially given all the crazy shit that can happen in the world and all the things that are there pulling you off your pivot. This ability to focus, but it is something that has to take you. It takes work. You have to develop this as a skill. Okay. Once you do that, this is where superhuman shit happens. I like to, obviously, you look at somebody like Elon Musk. Here's a guy who's just pissed off at Twitter for censoring people. So he's like, here's 44 billion, fuck you. and the problem's solved. Okay. But I guarantee you, Elon Musk is a man with the superpower of focus, of laser-like focus, of locking onto a problem and solving that problem. And he's gotten to where he can do multiple at once now, right? Because he's got SpaceX, he's got Tesla, he's got the Boring Company. He's like got his hands in all the space, the satellite company. He's doing a million things, and it's superhuman. The amount of in terms of people moving the needle and making a difference, that guy is doing superhuman things. Look at Jeff Bezos. I guarantee you, and these are nerd guys, okay? Mental power, focus, persistence, patience, adding tremendous value to our lives. You may or may not like Jeff Bezos. He may rub you the wrong way, but I guarantee you this. You like his fucking 2-day shipping. You love that shit. Otherwise, he would not be doing what he's doing. Now, I think he's like the third richest person on the planet all of a sudden. I think he lost like 20 billion or something because of his investments. I don't know. Anyway, but my point is persistence and focus and patience are all really, to me, a crucial factor when it comes to greatness, to success, to having maximum impact. Okay. What I've been able to do with scientific wrestling, what I've been able to do for the mace belt, it was because of single-minded focus. There's other factors. I think another factor that is completely relevant here is being first, being number one, hence the name of the podcast and my brand, number one. There's other cool things about No1 that I like, number one, right? Because if you go from no one, 0 to number one, that's like binary code, like 0 and 1. It's like the duality of the universe. I mean, I could get crazy here. Anyway, the main factor in this is managing time. Okay. So let me give you an example. My kids, they were in public school. What does public school really do? Okay. It manages your kids' time. It's just complicated babysitting. A bunch of fucking hoops that these poor kids are forced to go through. I'm sorry, dude. That's really what it is. If you think they're learning something of value, I mean, why the fuck can half the people in public school can't even fucking read or write or do math when they graduate? It's a jerk off. It's a waste of time. I don't know what to tell you, man. The facts are out there, okay? I'm not here to convince you that. You can go fucking look up the numbers yourself. It's a fact. I'm just going to move on from that fact, okay? And I took my kids out of public school because it's just a disaster. There's so many things wrong with public school. And we put them into a school. So there's this idea of, obviously homeschooling. I still don't want to school them from home. There's this great concept in education, right? Like I'm a nerd on a lot of subjects. Okay. I'm sorry. Like this is one of the things that has come from this superpower of incredible focus is that I'm able to really sit down and study a subject in a broad, meaningful way and take the information and remember it and apply it. And there's all these different modalities in education, right? Like Waldorf, there's fucking Amelia Reggio, there's Montessori, okay, there's homeschooling, there's all these, like, there's so many, okay? But the whole Rudolf Steiner shit, right? Like, anyway, there's this concept known as unschooling. And it's this radical notion of like, what if kids don't need to be told what to do to learn? What if they just need exposure to the world and they get out there and they try to actually learn, like experientially, and not waste time on fucking stuff that don't matter? Why are you learning a times table when every fucking, your teacher say, oh, you're not going to always have a calculator with you. You have a fucking phone. Shut the fuck up. You don't need it. It's a waste of your mind power. What if, for example, let me tell you something. My daughter, super precocious, by the way. Part of the reason we took her out of public school was because she would come home crying. One, because she was getting bullied. Two, she was getting in trouble for sneaking out of class to go study algebra. She was going to the algebra class because the class that they had her in, she was so fucking bored and acing everything that the teacher had her teaching the other kids. Yeah. I'm like, where's your paycheck then, man? Where's the lesson there? Where's the upside for my kid? You're making her, you're putting fucking limits on her. I thought education in school is about fucking learning, right? So anyway, we took him out. We put him in a program that is basically unschooling. It's a place they go, so they have friends and family and whatnot. It's called a Sudbury method, Sudbury. There's no curriculum at all, zero. There's no math class. There's no science class. There's no history class. There's no politics being pushed on them. There's no, hey, your gender is whatever fucking thing you make up. None of that. There's none of it. That's first of all an awesome thing. So no propaganda. Okay, let's just be real. Second thing is they have to learn to manage their time. So when they first go to the school, they're like, oh yeah, cool, I'm just going to be on my screen all day. But guess what? The road, as William Blake so brilliantly said, poet, the road to excess leads to the palace of wisdom. The road to excess leads to the palace of wisdom. So they got all the fucking screen time they wanted. And guess what? Now they don't even like it. Sure, they get on there, but they're also very proficient on it. They know what they're doing. But you know what they spend most of their time doing? Coming up with new games of tag and figuring out ways to interact and trade with each other. So they're exercising, challenging themselves, being competitive, having a great time with all their friends. They're age mixed, so there's not segmented by age. So you have the 5-year-olds learning to interact with the 18-year-olds, and the 18-year-olds learning to interact with the 5-year-olds. There is staffer, and there is actually a very interesting structure. So in addition to them doing this, but by the way, my daughter now can play music by ear because she's spending time on what she likes. She's being able to focus on what she likes. She's able to obsess healthily on what she likes. And so she plays piano. Man, she'll listen to Bohemian Rhapsody in my car because I'm listening to it. Go home, and next thing you know, it's a little silhouette of a man, Scaramouche, and she's playing it. It's fucking insane because she's able to take charge of her own learning. She has such a tremendous head start on everybody else. And it's really cool too, this Sudbury method, because in addition, they have like what's called a judiciary or a court system. I know this is a total tangent, but it is relevant to focus. But this is not. This part's cool though. So they also have chores, and they can trade. They could pay somebody to do the chores, just like real life. But then they also have a judicial committee. So anybody from the 5-year-old new student to the principal and owner of the school, if they do something somebody else doesn't like, there's a grievance filed. There's a system for it. It's brought to before basically a little mini court system, and all the kids have to participate just like in the real world. So my kids are already geared up They don't want to get involved with courts. They know how it works, though. Do you understand? So they're actually getting real world stuff. And this is the important thing, I think, for us to learn as humans, right? Time is limited. If you're lucky, you have about 80 years to get your shit, get whatever you want to have happen and experience or whatever impact you want to make on the world. You've got 80 years. So do this for me right now. Make a grid. Okay? Make get a piece of paper and write, like, I don't know, however many lines. I think it would be like to where you have 80 boxes. And whatever your age is, fill out that many of the boxes. And look at how little white space is left. That's how much time, and that's assuming you don't get hit by a fucking bus or killed by some injection by some evil pharmaceutical company or say the wrong thing and have the man come and fuck your life up. I'm saying you got limited time. Time is limited. And because of time is that constraint, your ability to focus and make the most of that time is going to measure how much impact you have on the world. Okay? People wonder, like, for years, before people got to know me as me, because I'm out here constantly promoting, having radio shows, doing videos, getting on podcasts, all that kind of stuff. But for years, people couldn't believe that I accomplished all the fucking things I did. But you want to know why? Because I made the best out of a shitty situation. When I was very young, I've talked about this. When I was 10 years old, I nearly died because of a doctor made an error, and I almost died of gangrene poisoning at 10. Okay, I became very aware of my mortality and the limits on time at 10. And then 5 years later, I got cancer and became even more deeply entrenched in this idea of there's only so much time. And what do you want to do with it? And how do you maximize it? And the irony is you have to learn to manage time. And that's what patience really ends up being. How do you manage time? People don't realize, when I had my carotid injury and my strokes due to my wrestling stuff, I had to retire from that. And I still am obsessed with it. I just can't get on the mat like I used to. But I was so obsessed and I couldn't figure out a way to take care of my physical health, when I didn't have wrestling or grappling of some sort. And so I started getting out of shape. My health started going to shit. And so I needed to figure something out. And I picked up yoga because I liked it, because it was a mix of the meditative stuff that I was already doing, plus working out and fitness. And actually the modern yoga that we all practice is actually a derivative of the old exercises from the wrestling in India, the Hindu wrestlers, like Dons. The Hindu push-up is actually Dandasana, or dog, right? Okay, so anyway, and I really enjoyed that. But one of the things that was always funny is that, I took the meditative part of it seriously. Most people in the West just do yoga to go in and get sweat on, stretch, and move their body, which is fantastic. That's a fantastic thing to do. But I would go in a half hour, as soon as the other class was out and I could get in, they mopped the floors, I could get in. I sat in there and I'd meditate. And it would be for about a half hour. And most people are like, how the fuck does this guy just sit still? But what you don't realize is I'm actually going through a whole process of things in my head. I have a whole series of things that I am doing while I meditate. Okay. And anyway, to me, there is tremendous power in learning how to manage time, in how to be patient, and how to be persistent. Okay. And maybe I might need to make that another pillar, or maybe see if it fits in one of the other pre-existing pillars. I think it does fit under what I'm calling pillar 4, and that's tremendous effort or massive action. Because if you add the time component, it becomes persistence. So, maybe that really is part of the 4th pillar of greatness that I worked on. So, guys, I had a fantastic weekend. I hope you guys had a really good weekend. Like I said, helped out with a friend's deal. I fixed my fence. Was able to hang out with kids. Did a bunch of great things. I closed a bunch of big business deals, which was fantastic. I hope you guys are killing it. If I can be of any assistance to you, I want you guys to know a couple things that I got coming up here shortly. I've got, first and foremost, I think if you guys are interested in figuring out how to make your life better in a real way, if you're interested in personal freedom, individual liberty, like yourself, your own personal freedom, and how to make your life better, that's a big reason why I got involved with Grant Cardone and the 10X community. I don't know, he's his own man and has his own philosophies on stuff, but the things that he's doing with 10X, I really dig, and I think you would too. So I'm actually, I partnered with Grant. I'm actually certified, only one of 66 people on the planet certified by Grant Cardone to teach his materials. Okay, he's a billionaire, by the way. Okay, and I'm not doing so bad, but I'm at a fraction. I'm at about 1/1000% of where he's at, which is still pretty good. Okay, but I have taken it to teach his materials, and the easiest way for you to get involved is at our Denver 10X Business Bootcamp. It's a 3-day training where you come in and we just hammer for 6 hours a day on sales and marketing and how to scale your business. So it's really about business development. Okay, that's where I'm a real nerd and why I've partnered with him, because he's so fantastic at it. So you're getting my expertise, which is great, but you're getting also all of Grant's accumulated wisdom as well. That you can go to 10xdenver.co, like Denver, Colorado, 10xdenver.co. Check that out. You can also, the name of the podcast is the No1 Podcast. I took the URL, I found it. Nobody was claiming it. Stupid ass motherfuckers. It's mine now. So No1 Coaching, No1 Coaching.com. That'll take you over to the Thaley site. You can work on any of the stuff that we do there. If you want to learn how to write a book, I've published about 15 of them. I will help. And to me, it's one of the best things you can do in terms of getting your brand out there. Authority-coaching.com. I have so much stuff in the fires, man. Be sure also to get in shape. Use the Mace Bell, one of my investments or inventions and investments. I invest a lot of money and time into it, and a lot of thought and a lot of action, a lot of sweat. My buddy Greg Walsh runs Wolfade, and they've partnered with Sorinex, big manufacturer of fitness equipment. Macebell.com. Check it out, man. And then, of course, Scientific Wrestling. We are blowing up. I've set a personal target. I want 100 affiliates with Scientific Wrestling. That's gyms out there teaching our materials, which are the materials handed down from Billy Robinson. Remember, there's a lot of people that are claiming some sort of tie to Billy Robinson. There's one group that Billy chose to be a part of and co-develop the curriculum for, and that's Scientific Wrestling. Okay. Again, number one. So scientificwrestler.com, you can get involved with us. We signed on 2 new affiliates just this week, the first American affiliate. And so now that brings 3. So 97 to go. By the way, there's a special deal for the first 8. I'm knocking off $2,000 off the price. So there's only 5 left. Hate to break it to you guys. So we've got 2 Colorado affiliates and 1 in Canada. So we're already in international, blowing up. I want you to be a part of it. And we are committed to help you blow up with us. So you are really, truly partnering with me when you sign on. So again, check out scientificwrestler.com. And then, guys, we are still running all our crazy camps and everything else that we do. Coach and Catch, we've got 2 California dates left for the spring tour. Actually, it's kind of becoming to be more summer. We had to reschedule some of the dates. We're going to be in Southern California in May and in July. So come on out. Also, we're having a bunch of tournaments. I know that Gil Olivas down in Arizona is going to be running King Catch. I know Luis Ojeda He's going to be running a kick and catch in San Diego. Actually, a really novel concept that he's brought to the table about doing a dual tournament, like you find in amateur wrestling. So that's going to be exciting. Shoot Pro Wrestling's coming up. There's so much stuff, man. But how am I doing all this? This is what I talk about every day, is how I do these. Today was about patience. And the real reason I even brought it up, patience, was it was inspired by a wrestler named Simon Gotch. He's taken the name in honor of Carl Gotch, who took the name in honor of Frank Gotch. But Carl was another guy that chose to be associated with scientific wrestling, a friend of mine. And Simon had a big press conference for this big match he was having with a legendary guy, a guy who's a direct student like me of Carl Gotch, named Funaki. And he was one of the founders of Pancrase, the first MMA organization on the planet. He had a match with him, and he was like, he said, I learned things from students of Gotch as well. He listed off my pal Josh Barnett, listed off a couple other people, but listed me off. And he said what he learned for me was patience. And to me, that's kind of where I wanted to go with this talk today. So I appreciate you guys. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time-ish. I still haven't really settled on a firm time. It's kind of noon Mountain Time. Hoping to hit as many people as I can. Please check me out tomorrow. And if you have any questions, I'm always here. Hit me in the DMs or comments or whatever. Thanks, guys. Talk to you tomorrow.